Ken and Michael back for the app segment, and today we're going to be focusing on one particular app called NAVtilus Mandatory Fields by actually NAVtilus. Hope I'm saying that right. And then after we take a look at that, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the other apps that we saw that might do a little bit of the same thing as NAVtilus, but that's going to be towards the end of this segment. So let's talk about NAVtilus. According to NAVtilus, mandatory field setup enables you to set up certain fields on records in a table that must be basically mandatory, and it gives you to set up these fields with conditions and whatnot. I have to say, it was one of the easier apps that we've tried to download and install. It worked. The features are great, which we'll talk about. The pricing is free. I mean, it's never ending. And I'm not a Business Central Power user by any means. I'm a marketing guy. So for me to actually go in there and set it up and be able to use it is top notch in my book. Consider myself maybe just a basic user. When I went in there with Ken and we went through it, Ken's obviously a master at Business Central. He didn't even look at like the installation documentation. He just went in there and blasted through it and set up everything. And
that's how people do it. That's Michael,
that is,
right?
Yeah, that is.
No one reads.
That's a guy thing, right?
Yeah, you just, let me see. I should just be able to click here and hit yes, and away we go.
Yeah, I guess if I'm building something, fine, but software, I'm a little bit different. But, like I said, installation was simple. You can go in there and you can set any field that you want to mandatory. You can set any custom field that you've created to mandatory. I know, Ken, you've got the Excel chart that we marked off on a couple things.
Yeah.
Like, what do we got in there?
Yeah, well, we ran this through the ringer. Usually sometimes we'll get together and we'll review an app and go through the process together. Sometimes you'll do it. Sometimes I'll do it. And in this case, we got together, went through the installation, some quick setup.
Maybe we should tell the viewers that we were actually planning on going through 4 or 5 different apps.
Yeah.
And this was actually the first one, and it kind of knocked it out of the ballpark.
Yeah, we thought, I think, we had so much fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Setting it up and testing it that we ran out of time, and so we'll highlight a couple other options out there and what they may offer above and beyond what we looked at. Mm-hmm. But again, if you're looking for something for free, this worked great. So what we did was we did we documented kind of our testing, and we did some very specific types of tests. The first one we did is we wanted to make sure that we could set a field on a card page as mandatory, so like on the customer card. Mm-hmm. So we set it up for payment method, and that worked. We then said, what about a list page? So I set it up, the description on the payment terms list page, where you set up payment terms. Same thing, set up a rule on that, worked. We tried it on a journal page. Specifically, we set the reason code to code mandatory on the item journal page. And what was noteworthy about that one was it was a journal page, but the reason code was not displayed on my reason codes, right? I had to go personalize it to add it. But even when it wasn't displayed as a field on the page, it still checked it and gave me a note, gave me a warning. Yep. We tried it on a document header. So we set up a rule that said, okay, when I enter a sales document, make sure that my shipping agent is populated. Yeah. Worked. We then took it one step further and said, well, wait a minute. A shipping agent is required on a sales order, but not a sales quote. So we went into the setup and we saw that you could actually set filters. Mm-hmm. So we set a filter on the rule to say document type is order. And then when we went in, again, we went to the order, it still worked. But when we went to a sales quote, we did not get the warning there on the mandatory field.
Right.
So you can even set filters to limit when that mandatory rule comes into play. We then did it on a document line. That was a little trickier. So I think
this is the one that didn't work out.
Yeah,
as well, right?
it was popping that. It seems like they've embedded the check into like a validate function. So it was popping up multiple times as you added a line.
Right.
So,
it worked, but
it was a little annoying.
Yeah. Validating really.
So that was the one thing. And then we did a custom field. We had in our environment, we had a custom field that had been added to the customer, and we were able to set up a mandatory rule for our custom field.
That one kind of shocked me. I didn't think
that was going to work. Yeah.
Yeah, especially for a free.
It's like a table
free
extension.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
We did then multiple fields. So we said, well, what if we've got 2 fields on the customer, and those are both mandatory, and I leave them both blank? What's going to happen? It popped one message telling me, and it listed both of those fields, that they were both blank. Right. And then the final test we did was what they call a consequence. Right. So for this rule, what we said is that if a certain field was blank, then set the blocked field to all. So what happens is if you don't set that field that's required, the customer automatically was blocked.
Yeah.
And this was the best part. Once I went back in and I filled in the field, it automatically removed that blocked field.
Right.
Because it saw that I no longer had that consequence, so it undid it and cleared it out.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. The one thing I think I might have liked to have seen, but I don't know if they could do it, was put a red asterisk, like we talked about earlier, next to the mandatory field.
I'll give you a red asterisk.
But other than that, yeah, it worked. It worked.
Yeah.
Phenomenally.
It does. It does. So like, before, we over gloat and gloat and gloat on this
too
one,
much, yeah.
right? And keep in mind, it's free.
That's
right?
why you get to gloat about it.
But in regards to, quote, mandatory fields, it is still a warning and does not prevent posting.
Correct.
Right? So
follows the Business Central logic.
Right. So, instead of the red asterisk that you love so much, it actually pops up a warning message, displays it to the user, like in their face, that they have to click OK on, right, to continue. So I'm okay with that. Like, to me, the red asterisk, it's kind of easy to ignore that. But I get a message when I try to leave a record, and it says, shipping agent must not be blank.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Let's give the user some credit, right?
Well, yeah, I look at the red asterisk more of, let's just say you've got 40 fields to fill out. Yeah. You just want to know which ones are actually required instead of having to do all of them and then finding out, at the end when you try to leave the page that you missed one or whatnot.
Yeah. So I would say, we were having fun kind of going through, and right, you heard about all the different scenarios we did. And by the way, we installed the app, we ran through the setup, and we did all of this testing. Would you say an hour?
Yeah, just about an hour.
In 1 hour. So all those tests that we did, right? First time ever looking at it and figuring out how to set up the filters, how to set up the consequences, and running through all the tests.
And that was without following the instructions.
Without opening a user manual.
Yeah, definitely nice and smooth running.
Yeah,
I like it a lot.
I would recommend it. Anyone that says they're looking for a little bit more in terms of mandatory fields, I would say absolutely take a look at NAVtilus. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll put a link in the show notes, and then let's talk about some of the other ones that might even extend the mandatory field functionality a little bit more than NAVtilus does. So you've got data security by EOS Solutions. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
I was just say it's got a little bit more features. For instance, Let's see, you can manage user or group policy and permit to change record status only to granted people. You can send an email when a record change status. No coding, very easy, that type of thing. It just has more functionality as it should, right? Because this is a paid version. So pricing for this one is yearly subscription to get full functionality is $678.76 or $600 US dollars, or €600. So,
but that's for 13 predefined tables.
Correct.
Is that right? And then access to extensions to add more. So there's some limitations, and what I noticed on this one is that it appears to be free.
It appears to be free.
But if you read the detailed description of it, it is free for mandatory fields on the vendor table.
Yes.
So you can install the app and you can use it on the vendor table. But beyond that, you need the paid subscription.
You do need to pay, yeah. All right, next up, Status Management by Opportunix. This one, you can define your own custom lifecycle with your own statuses, set up permissions for each status by user group. There's an option to create archive versions of sales and purchase documents for each status. It's just like the other one, has more features.
Yeah, I saw you can create flows, and you can also block posting.
Yeah.
So this is a true, I don't want this sucker to get posted if this field hasn't been filled in. This takes it to that level and says, okay, you can't process it.
Yeah, and pricing for this one is relatively pretty good. It's $2.39 per user per month.
U.S. dollars.
U.S. dollars, correct, yeah. The only thing I didn't like about this, though, is they said that if a free trial is set up in a production environment, it automatically changes to a paid subscription when the trial ends. I'm not a fan of those type of things. I think when the trial's over, end it.
You've been hoodwinked one too many times over your lifetime.
I have,
right?
yeah,
Right?
Exactly, yeah. iPhones and apps years ago when they first came out.
Yeah, I get it. Yep.
But so
that looks like kind of definitely a more feature-rich, app with some more bells and whistles on it.
And that app actually adds 2 permission sets to Business Central: the Status Management Manager and the Status Management User permission sets.
So you can kind of control who has the ability to set up these rules,
which is kind of nice.
Yep.
All right.
And then we got one more.
We do. You want to lead it off?
Yeah, Release Pro from Ultima. And that one has some like workflow. It can be incorporated with the workflow approvals within Business Central on sales documents and purchase documents. It also has the ability for you to set up, do you want it to just provide a notification to the user, provide a warning, or make it truly mandatory? So you can you have
set
a couple different types of rules that you can put in place. And this one is approximately, well, not exactly, $56.72 US dollars per month requires an annual contract.
Yeah.
So I don't know what those numbers, is that 50 euros?
That one I do not
know. I lose track of my currency translations.
Yeah, it's probably about 65, somewhere around there.
So my takeaway on it is that for many people, the free version, NAVtilus, that we reviewed, provides a really good level of functionality. It's kind of like the 80-20 rule, but if you're looking for that extended functionality, the EOS Solutions, Opportunix, or Ultima's products might be something worth looking into.
Yeah.
And there's nothing I love more than having options, right? Because each company is unique. That's why they're running Business Central, right? Because you can tailor it, to manage your business. And having 4 at least, right? And we may have all apologies to others that there may be other mandatory field apps out there also that we didn't have a chance to cover. So our apologies if that is the case. But this was our what we could get done here.
Yeah, and like we said earlier, the one thing I like about NAVtilus is free.